Welcome back to Sideline Insider, the home of deep dive storytelling, raw emotion, and sports commentary that doesn't just look at the headlines, but digs into the pulse of the fan base and the energy of the city. And today's story? It's a storm. A real, intense, unapologetic collision between two worlds. A head coach known for his icy calm and a radio host known for his volcanic passion. This is the story of Kevin Stefanski, Tony Rizzo, and a press conference moment that lasted seconds but sparked hours of debate, days of discussion, and waves of emotion that are still rolling through Cleveland. This is the moment where the question rose louder than any stat line, louder than any final score, louder than any game recap. Did Stefanski go too far? And why did Tony Rizzo fire back with a force that felt like the voice of the entire city? To understand this moment, truly understand it, we have to step into the emotional landscape of Cleveland. This isn't a casual sports town. This is not a city that shrugs after losses or politely claps through mediocrity. Cleveland lives through every snap, every drive, every decision, every timeout, every moment of momentum gained or lost. Cleveland breathes the Browns. The team isn't just part of the city, it belongs to the city. It represents its grit, its scars, its hope, its hunger, its identity. And when things feel off, even slightly off, even for a moment, the city reacts. Hard, loud, honest. That's the environment Tony Rizzo speaks into, and that's the environment Stefanski leads within. So let's rewind the spark. Kevin Stefanski was at the podium delivering answers in his usual composed, calculated style. He doesn't show too much. He doesn't reveal emotion. He doesn't give reporters anything extra to chew on. To him, press conferences are transactions. Input, output, done. But on this day, a reporter asked him about young quarterbacks, development, and attributes he values when evaluating the next generation of QBs. And among the names referenced around the question, whether hypothetically or with curiosity, was Shedeur Sanders, a young quarterback with grit, leadership, and national presence. Not because Stefanski had spoken about him before, not because he was making any predictions, but because fans wondered how Stefanski felt about players with that style, that toughness, that spark. Stefanski's response? It was brief, quick, neutral, and tonally cold enough that something in the room shifted, not for Stefanski, but for everyone listening. There was no curiosity in his voice, no openness, no sense of respect for the player being mentioned, just a swift verbal dismissal. And while Stefanski may have thought nothing of it, Cleveland heard everything in it. Cleveland heard a tone that felt disconnected from its passion. Cleveland heard a tone that felt dismissive of a player who many people believe carries real potential. Cleveland heard a tone that didn't match the moment, the question, or the respect fans wanted. And most importantly, Cleveland heard a tone that echoed a larger frustration with Stefanski's ongoing communication style. A style that, at times, feels emotionally distant. When Tony Rizzo sat down the next morning, he wasn't quiet. He wasn't calm. He wasn't entertaining. He was focused. He was intentional. He was carrying the emotional weight of the city on his shoulders. And he let it out in the way only Tony Rizzo can. With heat, emotion, honesty, and that unmistakable Cleveland rawness that has defined his voice for decades. Tony Rizzo began to speak, not angrily, but passionately, calling out Stefanski's tone, calling out what he perceived as dismissiveness, calling out the disconnect between the coach and the city. He wasn't attacking Stefanski's ability. He wasn't questioning his intelligence. He wasn't tearing down his character. He was challenging the way Stefanski communicates, the emotional temperature of his responses, and the way those responses land with the people of Cleveland. Rizzo said that Stefanski's tone didn't show respect, that it didn't acknowledge the fan base's curiosity, that it didn't honor a young player like Shedeur Sanders who, regardless of where he ends up, has earned the right to be spoken about with seriousness. Rizzo essentially said that Stefanski is acting insulated, too insulated, to the point where he doesn't realize or doesn't care how his tone affects people. Then came the line that blew the doors off the studio. You talk like your job was never on the line, when everybody knows your job survived because of the players who carried this season. And the moment those words hit the air, the reaction began. Fast, furious, unstoppable. Because that statement cut deep. Not because it was personal, not because it was unfair, but because it touched the truth fans have been whispering all season. Stefanski's calm demeanor is admirable in some moments, but when the team struggles, when chaos hits, when decisions feel questionable, that calmness begins to feel like aloofness. And for a city like Cleveland, a city driven by raw emotional fuel, aloofness is the greatest sin. Fans don't want perfection in their coach. They want connection. They want honesty. They want transparency, sincerity, realness. They want someone who feels what they feel and acknowledges their frustration. Tony Rizzo became the megaphone for that demand. His rant was not just about Cheater Sanders. Rizzo was pointing at a pattern, a long-term sense that Stefanski's communication style doesn't align with the emotional temperature of the city. And the fan base was split immediately. Some fans agreed completely, praising Rizzo for speaking the truth, calling Stefanski out for being too robotic, too reserved, too unwilling to show genuine emotion. They said Rizzo was right, that Stefanski's tone has felt dismissive for months, and that now was the moment it finally went too far. Another group defended Stefanski, saying the coach was doing the professional thing, avoiding speculation, staying focused on his team. They argued that Rizzo was blowing the moment out of proportion, and that Stefanski should not be pressured to show emotion just to please the media. And a third group, perhaps the largest, just enjoyed the moment. They didn't choose sides. They just sat back and enjoyed one of the best Cleveland sports radio eruptions in recent memory, recognizing the entertainment value even as they appreciated the underlying tension. But regardless of sides, the impact was undeniable. Stefanski's tone mattered. Rizzo's reaction mattered, and the emotional landscape of the Browns' season became clearer. This wasn't a fight between a coach and a radio host. This was a reflection of the emotional expectations of the Cleveland Browns fan base. It was a spotlight on the growing gap between Stefanski's communication style and the rawness of the city he coaches. It was an exposure of the tension between calm leadership and passionate fandom. It was a reminder that Cleveland expects sincerity, not polished corporate answers, from its coach. Stefanski didn't intend to go too far, but intention doesn't change impact. The impact of his tone was real, and Tony Rizzo gave voice to that impact. And now the story stretches forward. It lives beyond that one press conference. It lives beyond that one rant. It lives in every future Stefanski press conference. Every answer, every tone, every moment where his calmness will be analyzed through the lens of a fan base that demands feeling. Cleveland doesn't need a screaming coach, but Cleveland needs a coach who feels like he hears them. And now, thanks to Tony Rizzo, Stefanski knows the city is listening closely. This moment will follow him. This moment will shape narratives. This moment will influence how fans interpret everything he says moving forward. And at Sideline Insider, we'll be following every chapter of this unfolding story. Thank you for watching Sideline Insider, the home for real emotion, real breakdowns, and real storytelling. If you enjoyed this deep dive drama analysis, do me a huge favor. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment from Sideline Insider. Your passion fuels this channel. Your support keeps the stories alive. And your voice shapes the next episode. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next Sideline Insider Deep Dive.